I'm Jason Leary, Ag Technology Manager with Crystal Valley. Since we weren't able to have our winter conference this year, we wanted to put together some videos to share with our customers what we learned from 2020 and the data that we normally present at that conference. So starting out for this first video, we're going to put up a graph that just shows yield across our trade area, where we were at compared to historical yields. So if you look, this first graph is going to be corn yield across all of Crystal Valley as an average. So this year we averaged about 210 bushel an acre. So it was a good crop, but I don't think it was the great, phenomenal crop that we thought we had in August. And you can see, it's probably over the last 5-6 years the second best crop that we've had. It wasn't as good as our 2017 corn crop, however. Moving over to soybeans. If you look at this soybean graph, we came in at about a 62 bushel average on soybeans across all of our locations. And again, when we look at bean yields on an average, I think our bean yields this year were a higher percentage above average compared to the corn. Most growers were happy with their bean yields. We had some very good field averages across the trade area. But still not our best. We actually go back to 2016, where we had a 64 bushel average that year, but still a very good bean crop this year. So as we break down our corn yield across Crystal Valley locations, we've got about an 18 bushel spread from the lowest location up to the highest. The interesting thing is we look at these locations, there really isn't a geographical advantage or disadvantage to north or south, east or west. We were really pretty tight yield range, and the locations are pretty mixed where the yields came in. Everywhere was pretty well above the multi-year average this year, outside of Janesville location where they had some wind and a couple other events that factored into theirs. As we look at the 2020 soybean yield by Crystal Valley location, you can see again most of the locations are above the 5-year average, and we had about a 15 bushel spread from the highest to the lowest location. The lower yielding locations, I think, had a lot to do with moisture. They got drier. The other interesting factor, if you remember in the previous graph, Janesville was one of the lower yielding corn locations, and they're actually the top spot for soybeans. So again, very good soybean yields when we're looking at location yields well over 65 bushels. So this summer we had a lot of our interns do an extensive project where we had all of our replicated hybrid trials spread across our footprint. Each of those plots had about 25 hybrids in them. What we did is the interns pulled years out of each hybrid, and they did yield estimates, and we put all that data together. We came up with an estimated yield of about 214 bushels in August. And when we compare that to our actual yields out of our replicated plots this year, was 226. So estimates were about 12 bushels off, but overall, I mean, that 213 estimated yield in August was pretty close to where we fell. And our 226 average for our plots, it's about 16 bushel better than the overall farm average. But you consider where plots are located, better spots of the field, no headlands or anything. So we do expect a higher average out of our plots. The last graph here that we're going to look at is comparing those 25 hybrids, looking at the actual yield versus the estimated yield that we counted in August. And overall, if you compare that, it's a pretty consistent average difference there between the actual and estimated. Couple of hybrids that stand out. As we learn more about these hybrids and look at them, what we're really seeing is kernel size is making a big difference. On those particular hybrids that are off, is a small kernel size. So once the combines hit them, they were off, but we're going to continue to do this project going forward with our interns every year. So hopefully, as we fine-tune our estimates, we can start to bring a pretty reliable yield estimate in August. So that wraps up our first video with overall yield across our Crystal Valley trade area. Stay tuned for more videos to come.